I knew something was wrong the moment I pulled into our driveway. The garage was full of furniture, my son's beds, dressers, and desks piled haphazardly like discarded toys. My heart started racing as I rushed inside, barely remembering to grab my suitcase from the trunk. My name is Olivia Matthews, and I had just returned from a week-long pharmaceutical conference in Boston. As a senior medical sales representative, these trips were part of my job. But I had never felt such dread coming home before. Mom. Two voices called out in unison as my 12-year-old twins, Ethan and Noah, ran to meet me. Their faces told me everything I needed to know. Something had happened while I was away, something that had hurt my boys. What's going on? I asked, hugging them close. Why is your furniture in the garage? Dad made us move to the basement, Ethan said quietly, his voice trembling. He said we had to. The basement? I repeated, my voice sharp with disbelief. Our basement was unfinished, with concrete floors and exposed pipes. Why would he? For Madison's dance studio, Noah cut in, his face flushed with anger. Dad said she needs space to practice, and our room has the best lighting. Madison, my husband Mark's 16-year-old daughter from his first marriage. She had moved in with us 6 months ago when her mother took a job overseas, and Mark had been bending over backward to accommodate her every whim since. Where is your father? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Upstairs with Madison, Ethan replied. They're installing mirrors on our walls. I took the stairs 2 at a time, my heels clicking against the hardwood like ammunition. The door to my son's bedroom, their former bedroom, was open, and I could hear Madison's voice floating out. It's perfect, Daddy, just like a real dance studio. I stepped into the doorway and froze. The room was unrecognizable. The walls were stripped of my boys' posters and photos, replaced with floor-to-ceiling mirrors. The hardwood floor had been polished to a shine, and a ballet bear had been installed along one wall. Mark was on a ladder, adjusting a professional lighting fixture, while Madison pirouetted in the center of the room. What the hell is this? My voice cut through their bubble of satisfaction like a knife. Mark turned, his face breaking into that smug smile I'd grown to hate. Olivia, you're home early. Surprise? He gestured around the room proudly. I decided to do something special for Madison while you were gone. She's been practicing in the garage, but with winter coming, she needs a proper space. And our sons need a proper bedroom. I shot back. The basement isn't finished, Mark. It's cold, it's damp. Oh, they'll be fine, he waved dismissively. Boys are tough. Besides, Madison needs this for her future. She's talented, she could go professional. Madison nodded eagerly. I have a recital coming up, and I need to practice at least 4 hours a day. I looked between them, these two people who had so casually displaced my children, and felt something snap inside me. Put everything back, I said, my voice deadly calm. Now. Mark stepped off the ladder, his expression hardening. No, the room is Madison's now. I've already spent money on the renovations, and what's done is done. The boys will adjust. They're 12, Mark. They need their space, their privacy. They have space, he cut me off. The basement is bigger than this room anyway. Stop making such a big deal out of this. Madison is my daughter and her needs. And Ethan and Noah are my sons. I interrupted, pulling out my phone. And if you won't fix this, I will. What are you doing? Mark asked, watching as I dialed. Calling my lawyer, I replied, meeting his gaze steadily. The one who handled my late parents' estate. You remember him, don't you? The one who made sure this house stayed in my name. The color drained from Mark's face. In his rush to please Madison, he'd forgotten one crucial detail. This house had been my inheritance, passed down from my parents. I'd never added his name to the deed, despite his hints and suggestions over the years. Olivia, be reasonable, he started, but I was already speaking into the phone. James, it's Olivia Matthews. I need your help. My husband has forced my minor children into an unfinished basement and converted their bedroom without my permission. Yes, the house is still solely in my name. What are my options? Madison's face fell as she realized her dance studio might not be as permanent as she thought. Mark stepped toward me, reaching for the phone, but I turned away. You can't do this, he hissed. She needs. What she needs, I cut him off, is to learn she can't take what belongs to others. And what you need is a reminder that this is my house, and those are my children. You have 1 hour to start moving everything back. If not, James will be filing papers tomorrow morning. You're overreacting, Mark tried again. This is what's best for. Best for who, Mark? Best for Madison, or best for you, trying to prove your father of the year while making my son sleep in a basement. I ended the call and turned to Madison. I'm sorry, but this room belongs to Ethan and Noah. You can practice in the garage, or we can look into actual dance studios in town. But you are not taking my children's bedroom. Daddy, Madison whined, but for once, Mark was silent. He knew I had the legal right to make this decision, and more importantly, he knew I was right. I walked downstairs to find my boys hovering anxiously in the hallway. Go get your dad, I told them. It's time to move your furniture back where it belongs. As they ran to obey, I leaned against the wall, my hands shaking slightly. I'd always tried to accommodate Mark's dedication to Madison, understanding his desire to make up for the years he'd missed. But this time, he'd gone too far, and things would have to change. The next few days were tense. While the boys' room had been restored, the mirrors removed, furniture moved back, walls repaired, the atmosphere in our house was thick with resentment. Madison refused to speak to anyone except Mark, slamming doors and playing music loudly during the twins' study time. Mark alternated between cold silence and attempts to justify his actions. I was just trying to support her dreams, he said over dinner one evening, pushing his food around his plate. You're making you look like the bad guy. You made yourself look like the bad guy, I replied, watching Ethan and Noah pick at their meals. The boys had been quieter since the incident, sharing worried glances whenever Mark and Madison were around. There were a dozen other ways to support Madison's dancing without displacing your stepsons. They're just rooms, Madison interjected, her voice dripping with disdain. It's not like they do anything important in there anyway. All they do is play video games and read comics. I set down my fork, fixing her with a steady gaze. Those just rooms are their personal space, their sanctuary. Just like your room is yours. How would you feel if someone decided your room would make a better gaming lounge and moved you to the basement? That's different, she protested. Dancing is my passion, my future. They're just being lazy. Enough. I cut her off, noting how my sons seemed to shrink in their chairs. Ethan and Noah are straight A students. Noah's science project won first place at the state fair, and Ethan's on track to skip a grade in math. Don't you dare call them lazy. Mark pushed back from the table. Come on, Madison. We don't have to sit here and listen to this. He stood up, gesturing for his daughter to follow. Clearly, Olivia's determined to make us out to be villains. As they left, I heard Madison's stage whisper. This is why Mom said she was impossible to live with. Later that evening, I found the twins in their room, surrounded by books but clearly not studying. Noah was lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling, while Ethan sat at his desk, absently flipping pages. Hey guys, I said softly, sitting on Noah's bed. Want to talk about it? They exchanged looks, that silent twin communication that never failed to amaze me. Finally, Ethan spoke. Are you and Dad getting divorced? The question hit me like a physical blow. What makes you think that? That's what Madison said, Noah replied, sitting up. She said her mom left because her dad always chose her over everything else, and now you're going to leave too. I pulled both boys into a hug, feeling their thin shoulders trembling slightly. Listen to me, I said firmly. Whatever happens between your father and me, it won't change how much I love you, and I will always, always put you first. But Dad doesn't, Ethan whispered. He loves Madison more. Your father? I paused, choosing my words carefully. Your father is trying so hard to make up for the years he missed with Madison that he's forgetting to be fair to you. It's not right, and it's not your fault. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was James, my lawyer. Olivia, I've reviewed everything you sent me. The photos of the basement, the receipts for the dance studio renovations, the text from your sons about being forced to move. If you want to pursue this legally, we have a strong case for creating an unsafe living environment for minors. I stepped into the hallway, lowering my voice. What are you suggesting? File for full custody, he said bluntly. Mark's behavior shows a clear pattern of favoritism and disregard for your son's well-being. The basement incident is just the latest example. You mentioned he's used their college fund for Madison's dance competitions. He tried. I corrected. I stopped him in time. Document everything, James advised. Every incident, every comment, every time he puts Madison's wants above your son's needs. If this goes to court, we'll need to show a pattern. After hanging up, I stood in the hallway, listening to the sounds of my house. Madison's music thumping from her room, Mark's voice as he talked on the phone, probably to her mother, and from the twins' room, the quiet murmur of my boys talking. I'd married Mark 5 years ago, believing we could blend our families, believing his devotion to Madison was admirable. Now I wondered if I'd been blind to the warning signs, if I'd let my sons down by bringing them into this situation. Heading downstairs for water, I overheard Mark in his office. "I know, Karen," he was saying, presumably to Madison's mother. "Olivia's being completely unreasonable. The boys would have been fine in the basement. Madison needs proper training space if she's going to make it into that summer intensive program." No, I haven't told Olivia about the program fees yet. She's already freezing me out of the accounts after that college fund incident. I'd heard enough. The summer intensive program he mentioned. I'd seen the brochure in Madison's room. It cost more than a semester of college. Now I knew why he'd been asking about home equity lines of credit. Back upstairs, I found the twins had fallen asleep, books still scattered around them. As I tucked them in, I made a silent promise. Things were going to change, starting tomorrow. Mark needed to understand that being a father meant being a father to all his children, not just the one who reminded him of his first marriage. The breaking point came sooner than I expected. I was reviewing documents in my home office when I heard Madison's shrill voice coming from the twins' room. "Daddy, their stupid games are too loud. I can't concentrate on my routine." I arrived at the doorway to find Mark confronting my sons, who were quietly playing a video game with headphones on. The volume from their TV was barely audible. "Boys, turn that off," Mark demanded. "Madison needs to practice." "But Dad," "No," protested. "We're using headphones. And this is our room." "Don't talk back to me," Mark snapped. "Madison has an audition coming up. She needs to practice whenever she feels inspired. You two can go red in the basement." That was it, the final straw. "No," I said, stepping into the room. "They won't." Mark turned, his face flushing. "Olivia, don't start." "I've already started," I cut him off, pulling out an envelope from my pocket. "These are divorce papers, Mark. I had James draw them up last week." The room went silent. Even Madison stopped her theatrical sighing to stare. "You can't be serious," Mark finally managed. "I've never been more serious," I replied. "I've also filed for full custody of the twins. Joint custody isn't an option anymore. Not after you've repeatedly shown that you'll always put their needs last." "This is ridiculous," Madison burst out. "You're just jealous because I have actual talent and your kids." "Madison," I interrupted firmly, "stop talking. This situation is largely your father's fault, not yours. He's taught you that it's okay to take from others, to demand more and more without considering anyone else's feelings. That's not going to serve you well in life." Mark snatched the envelope from my hand. "You think you can just end our marriage because I support my daughter's dreams?" "No," I said calmly. "I'm ending our marriage because you've stopped being a father to your stepsons. Because you tried to access their college fund for Madison's competitions. Because you were planning to take out a home equity loan on my house to pay for her summer intensive program." His face paled. "How did you?" "It doesn't matter how I know. What matters is that it stops now." I turned to my sons. "Boys, keep playing your game. This is your room, and you have every right to be here." As Mark stood there sputtering, I continued. "You have two choices, Mark. Sign the papers and agree to my terms, or we can let a judge hear about how you forced two minors to sleep in an unfinished basement. James has already documented everything." "You're bluffing," he tried, but his voice wavered. "Try me." I met his gaze steadily. "The house is in my name. The boys' college fund is protected. You have no leverage here, Mark. All you have is a choice about how difficult you want to make this." Madison started crying, real tears this time, not her usual performance. "Daddy, don't let her do this. Where will we go?" I softened slightly. "You can stay until the end of the school semester, Madison. I'm not heartless. That gives you and your father 3 months to find a new place. But the games with the boys stop now." Looking at Mark's face, I could see the moment he realized he'd lost. All his manipulation, all his attempts to prioritize Madison at everyone else's expense, had finally caught up with him. 2 weeks later, Mark signed the divorce papers. He and Madison moved into a nearby apartment, and slowly the atmosphere in our house began to change. The twins gradually relaxed, no longer walking on eggshells in their own home. "Mom," Ethan asked one evening as we had dinner, just the three of us, "are you sad about Dad leaving?" I considered the question carefully. "I'm sad that your father couldn't be the parent all his children needed. But I'm not sad about protecting you too." Madison's mom called me yesterday, Noah added quietly. "She said she's sorry about everything. She wants us to know it wasn't our fault." I nodded, grateful for Karen's unexpected support. She'd seen the pattern in Mark's behavior long before I had. It was why their marriage had ended. 6 months later, I ran into Madison at the grocery store. She looked different, more subdued, less entitled. "Mrs. Matthews," she said, shifting uncomfortably. I wanted to say sorry about everything. Dad's been making me see a counselor, and she's helping me understand how wrong we were." "Thank you, Madison," I replied sincerely. "That means a lot." "The boys," she hesitated, "are they okay?" "They're doing great," I said. "You're welcome to come visit them sometime, if you'd like. As long as you remember that it's their house, their space." She nodded, a small smile touching her lips. "I'd like that." Driving home, I thought about how much had changed. The twins were thriving, their confidence restored now that they didn't have to compete for their father's attention. Mark was learning, slowly, that being a good father to Madison didn't mean being a bad father to his sons. And me? I was finally at peace with my decision. Sometimes protecting your children means making hard choices, standing firm when it would be easier to give in. But watching my boys laugh and play in their room, secure in the knowledge that no one would displace them again, I knew I'd made the right choice. Some people might call it harsh, choosing my sons over my marriage. I call it being a mother.